All right, so here we go. I have to laugh just thinking about it. So, my first stop in India on this trip is Calcutta, which is where I am right now. And in my first hour here, I was scammed and I was kicked out of a hotel. So, yeah, not the best start this trip. But you know what? I refuse to let one or two people ruin my trip, ruin my time. So I'm going to tell you what happened and how I rebounded and made it work for me anyway. I mean, except the first scam because, I was just out some money. There was no way to come back from that. But here we go. Here's how it all happened. So I was coming from Bangkok and arriving here in Calcutta, and all of the flights that were arriving for the trip, they all had really less than ideal travel times. So it was like leaving at Bangkok, arriving here in Calcutta at 1 in the morning, something like that. So that's what I did. That was my only option, so that's what I decided to do. So because I was arriving at 1 in the morning, I decided to, and by the way, that's just the plane landing. Of course, I have to get my baggage, blah, 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 blah. So because I was arriving so late at night, I decided to book an airport hotel because seriously, basically every time I arrive in a new city, especially just flying into the country for the first time, the taxis can never find my hotel, never know exactly where I'm staying, even though I think I'm booking like a normal major place, but they always have trouble. So I figured, okay, I don't want to have to go too far away with arriving so late at night, and I want to book a hotel that they're definitely going to be able to find, not have any issues, so I booked something close to the airport. All fails, but whatever, here we go. So my plane got in, everything's normal, I got my baggage, and I went to get a taxi. And I got an airport taxi because those are usually really reliable, safe, you prepay. They're not the cheapest taxis, like I'm sure Ola or Uber would have been cheaper, but I couldn't use those because since I just landed, I didn't have a SIM card that was working that had any money on it. So I had to just rely on, whatever ground transportation I could find in the form of like cabs or like a rickshaw. But I don't even think rickshaws are out that late at night. But anyway, so I booked a prepaid taxi. It was like about 200 and some rupees. Paid that, just wanted to get to the hotel. By the way, I thought that my plan of booking an airport hotel was like foolproof because then they definitely know where it was. Wrong, they did not. It required my talking with like 5 different drivers. They were all looking at my map. Luckily, I did have offline maps downloaded on my phone, so I was able to show them the map where it was. Okay, whatever. They figured it out. They're going to take me. So the driver, I get in the car, and like shortly after we pull off, just a few minutes after we start driving, the driver's like, "You give me extra 50 rupees." And I'm like, "What?" Like, "No, I already paid." And he's like, 50 extra rupees you give me, okay? And I'm like, it's 2 in the morning. It's almost 2 in the morning at this point. And it's dark. I'm just in the taxi with this driver. I don't know if he's crazy or like what's going on. So I'm like, I tried to laugh it off. Like, ha ha ha, yeah, I already paid, whatever. But he kept insisting. So finally I was like, look, fine, sure. I'll give you the extra 50 rupees. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know, this person, I don't know anything about this driver, and I'm not going to have like a serious altercation with this dude over like a little less than $1. But it was like starting on the wrong foot, like I've just arrived. Why is someone trying to scam me? Because it's not about the money. The fact that he was like kind of scamming me right off the bat, it made me just feel a little bit unsafe being alone with him in a city I don't know, when it's super dark out. So whatever, I agreed to it. He did take me to the hotel. No problem. So I get to the hotel. I'm like, great. Okay, now it's about to be easy. Life is good. I booked the hotel in advance. I had a confirmation number, all this stuff. So I go up to the hotel. They knew I was arriving at like 2 in the morning. I put that in my request. They said, okay. So I get there. I give them my confirmation number. They're looking for it. Can't find it. I'm not stressed because I'm thinking, I have the confirmation, I have the email, and I confirm. I'm like, is this the right hotel? It was an Oyo that I booked because a lot of my friends told me before that like Oyos are great. So I was like, great, let me finally try out staying at one of these Oyos. So I'm like, is this the right Oyo? Is it this one? Da 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 da. They're like, yes, this is the right one. I'm like, okay. After a few minutes, they're like, oh, your reservation was canceled. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we don't accept foreigners at this hotel. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And they were like, yeah, there's a form that, you have to fill out if you take foreigners. And, we don't want to do that. So we don't accept foreigners here. That would have been really good information before I booked it. And how about when they confirmed, the hotel room? Like, my name does not sound Indian. Like, I don't know any Indians named Roman, like no regions. I haven't heard it anywhere. Like, when they saw my name, couldn't they have realized I wasn't Indian and just rejected my reservation and not written me back saying like, oh yes, no problem? Anyway, the point is, I was being kicked out of this hotel at 2 a.m. with nowhere to go. And I was like, listen, I was even trying to like make a joke, like to make light of the whole thing. I was like, well, listen, how about I just won't pay for the room? And that way we won't have a problem. I won't be, booking a hotel room from you guys. Just let me stay here. It's 2 a.m. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm alone. I'm a woman, solo traveling. I've just shown up in the country, in the city. And they're like, stare at me for a second. And they're like, oh, ma'am, that's not our policy. Right? So I'm like, okay. And they're like, there's another hotel we can send you to. And I'm like, what hotel? Like, what's going on? Okay, so I'm like, now I'm just like, do you have Wi-Fi? Can I get on Wi-Fi? I'm trying to like just get connected, to like the outside world and feel, like grounded again. But I was really like annoyed. I actually almost wanted to cry at one point just because I was angry and like frustrated that like I was having this hassle when I thought I'd done everything correctly. So now I'm trying to get on my phone. I'm getting on Wi-Fi, trying to connect, also to tell people like, hey, I'm having an issue, so that my friends would know and be aware, right? Because I think that's important to like check in with people back home. So I'm like texting, people trying to check in, and the guys are like, okay, your taxi is here. We called a taxi for you so you can get in there. They'll take you to the next hotel. And I'm like, no, like, wait, I don't even know if that hotel has a room available. I haven't spoken to anyone. Like, I'm not just getting into a taxi that, like, no. And they're like, well, do you want me to, send the taxi away? And I'm like, I didn't ask you to call it. And I think this is a thing, like in these situations, the guys were trying to be helpful, but I think they were also trying to get rid of their problem, me, just like to move on from the whole situation. But me, as the person in this situation, I have a responsibility to myself. And I wanted to slow things down. I didn't just want to rush into a taxi and take the solution that they were giving me necessarily without having any information. So I told them, no, I didn't want the taxi because the thing is, I felt safe at the hotel where I was, and I don't know how I would feel at this other hotel necessarily, So I told them no. I asked the guy if I could borrow his phone, and then I called the hotel that they were talking about because I was thinking, I don't want to just be wandering around from stop to stop in Calcutta. Like, what if I get there and the hotel's booked, or if I get there and it's dirty, or whatever the case may be? So anyway, I called the hotel, and I actually knew how much the hotel should cost because I actually looked at that one as an option for me when I was first booking, before I chose the Oyo. So the hotel was actually about $30 a night, which is a little bit pricey for some hotels, but whatever. I just wanted something convenient. So when I called the hotel, they said they did have a room available, but the price was like almost double the initial price. And I was like, so it costs more to spend less time in a hotel? Like, that feels like a scam and not like something I want to do. And I was like, well, why is it so much more? And they were like, oh, it's extra if you want to check in late. I was not in the mood for these games. So I took a moment. I just really had to sit there, look at my phone, and try and figure out what option would be best for me. And I think that's an important thing when things are going wrong. It's like, I try to get really calm, and I try to be level-headed, which can be difficult in the moment. Like, it's easy to be sort of flustered and worked up and upset. It's easy to cry, which is okay if you need to cry. But it's not necessarily going to bring me towards the solution. And what I ultimately decided to do was to upgrade. After being hassled and scammed a little bit, I just wanted something nice and easy. So instead of paying nearly double the price for like some random airport hotel, I decided to turn my lemons into lemonade, and I booked a really nice hotel for myself. to give myself just a nice smooth transition into Calcutta and to make sure I really enjoyed my time and didn't just sort of spiral downhill after having a negative start. So that's what I did. I wonder, what would you have done, by the way, if you arrive in a city, get scammed by a taxi right away, and then get told that your airport hotel has been canceled because you're a foreigner? And by the way, about the taxi scams, that doesn't only happen to foreigners. I talked to a woman here at this hotel who told me that, it happens to her all the time, where she gets into a taxi, they demand extra money, tell her that they're gonna like drop her off, like on the side of the road if she doesn't agree to pay more. So like these things are crazy. But it's not something that's specific to like being a foreigner in a new city. I do think sometimes these drivers can take it a little easy on foreigners, especially if they're alone at 2 a.m. But I think maybe that's when they see an opportunity. But anyway, I overcame it. I booked a nice hotel room for myself, which you can see. Oh, you see my mess on the bed actually. But I decided to book something nice and, not sort of just wallow in despair after being kicked out of my Oyo. So anyway, that was my arrival here in Calcutta. There's more coming. Luckily, things have been on the upswing primarily after this. So there's more to come. Make sure you subscribe so you can follow all these journeys around India, then into Korea, then through Japan, and maybe some in the US as well. Anyway, there's a lot coming up.